propose to a new person as far as the percentage. My proposal for the new building inspector is to pay them $80,000 a year. We're already paying $120,000 a year for 2 days a week. This way we get $80,000 and we get somebody for 5 days a week. So I think it's a good deal. If y'all will approve that, I'll hire him tomorrow.
Motion that we give Mr. Session the approval of hiring a building inspector with the desired salary immediately.
I just need some clarification, is if that is a process is established by ordinance.
Resolution.
It's by resolution, it would need to be passed by resolution and with comparable budget amendment. That process would be involved if we're increasing the policy in place as it's
Well,
and I may be wrong, but
It's, let me make an explanation. It's not a policy. There is a range.
right.
And I'm well within the range. I'm just above 10%. That's really what needs to be changed, is I maybe should be allowed to do more than 10% from the bottom, and maybe a midpoint or something in the range. Maybe make me where I can do the midpoint in the range, not 10% from the bottom. So since I was a little bit above the 10%, that's why I had to get council approval.
We just need to.
I don't think it says in the resolution about 10%.
Can
I think that came from staff.
She can-
Yeah, I'll take the ball here. Joanne Luker again. The personnel policy has a allowance for the city manager in hiring for someone with credentials or extra qualifications to, it says you should hire at the bottom of the scale, but it allows for the city manager to go up 10%. It's, if he's gonna go over or needs to go over that in hiring, it's very difficult today to hire people, we all know that. So in his negotiations, he needed to come and ask council's approval to hire it over that level that the personal policy gives him. It's not specifically in an ordinance, or it's, you know, the pay scales just
Is
you
it
have to.
a resolution that we would need to have the motion in form of resolution, or just the?
No, you don't want to change, you don't want to change the, it's within the range that the pay scale allows.
Okay.
It's just the
I can
starting
pay more.
pay is a little
Gotcha.
different, and we're asking for the permission from council.
If it's within the already stated range, then the council can approve it over 10%.
So her motion is good. So we have a motion
Second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you. One other thing I want to bring up. Today, I was looking at the website, and there was a message that went out both on the website and then it was on social media about fire hydrants being flushed, is what it was called, twice a week. And I really would rather not do them twice a week if possible, because every time we do that, based on how the hydrant is opened or closed too fast, it can possibly make leaks. It also stirs up the problems that we have with dead ends on our system, which causes some people to get groundwater in their house. So I'd like to propose to y'all, you choose the day. My suggestion is Tuesdays, so that everybody in the city knows on Tuesdays we're going to check fire hydrants and check their pressures and be doing that, so that if everybody gets brown water, whoever gets brown water, at least you'll know on Tuesdays don't wash your clothes, because it can happen, okay, and I hate that. But before this is all over with, before I leave here, we're going to loop the system in Live Oak, where we don't have any dead ends, because that's the problem. And I've been hearing about brown water forever, and I'm tired of hearing about it, and I've only been around the city a short period of time. So we're going to have to loop the system, keep constant pressure, which will make better pressure for all the fire hydrants, which is better for the fire department to put out fires. So it's all good for everybody, but right now we still have to test hydrants a certain amount every year, based on the ISO 9000. So the chief came to me, we devised a plan that we can do 10 hydrants a day, 1 day a week, and still exceed what we need to do for testing hydrants. Y'all pick the day. I recommend Tuesdays because if something happens to someone's piping close by, we'd have the rest of the week to fix it. If we do it on a Thursday, then we may not get it fixed over the weekend, and it's just as bad for the citizens. So.
Question, Mr. Sessions. You know how many hydrants we have in the city? And
I
can
want
we
to say we have right about 5.
380. 380.
Huh?
380.
It's 5, we had to do 500 tests, okay. It's 180, you're right.
380.
380?
380,
Not counting the private ones.
okay. So we can make this happen if we do 10 once a week.
So we can get them all done within
We can get them all done yearly.
a year? Okay.
Yearly, we can get them all done if we continue to do it like that. But my suggestion is do it on just 1 day so that it'll help us too, because we have to have an H2O person with them when they turn on the hydrant. I don't want him tied up for 2 days, I'd rather him be there 1 day.
Mhm.
So it helps H2O out, and it also gives everybody a heads up, it's gonna be done on this day of the week. So I think it's better, and the earlier the better for me. So it's up to y'all what day you want.
Well, we've heard staff's recommendation for Tuesday. Is there a motion to, just a consensus?
Yeah. Consensus is all I need.
All in
All right,
favor?
aye.
Opposed?
Tuesdays it is.
Tuesdays.
I'll get with the chief. All right, also, we've had new hires. I've promoted a chief, now I'm promoting a assistant chief. How many people I hired with you, chief? 2 so far. So we're trying to get everybody manned up in the fire department, and police department. Like I said, we're getting a building inspector. We need to hire code enforcement person too. So we've got a lot of holes right now. So I'm working hard to get it all done. Me and Miss Joanne talk salaries every day for at least an hour because of all the new people. We're trying to figure out how to pay them. So we're moving forward, trying to close all the gaps and do what we're supposed to do. I'm just hoping every day we get better. The next thing we need to talk about is the maximum millage rate for the tentative budget hearings. Yes, sir.
Question. This is a little bit better. On the, let's go back to promotion. You promote one of the firemen to an inspector.
I did.
Now, is there pretty much a salary? Because we talked about,
Oh, he got an increase plus a stipend to be the inspector. We took care of it. That's Tim Williams.
right, I know who it is, but the dollar amount, is there some secret?
I mean, it's not really a secret,
I
but
think his is just the stipend.
we gave him the stipend, but he gets $500 a month for just being an inspector. So that was something that the previous chief was. So him taking on that responsibility, he's receiving that. I'm not sure if we did anything else with his salary right then,
Not yet.
but I'll just tell you something about Mr. Williams. He's a very good employee, and when it comes time to review things for him, I'm very happy with what I see, and the chief's very happy with what he sees too. I would wish to have more people like him.
Okay, question. Now, has he been promoted to that position, or he just wearing 2 hats? What's going on? Has he actually been promoted to inspector?
He is the fire inspector, okay?
He is, that's
So
his title.
he's a firefighter / fire inspector, but being a fire inspector gets the stipend for doing that job. So he's making more money based on that title.
So would that be his title, inspector? Am I correct? Okay.
All right, the next thing we're talking about is, of course, in most rural communities, the millage rate is always high because we have lower taxable property. You know, St. Johns County, their millage rate's about 5 probably, and they've got lots of money. Over here, we're at 9.5. So my recommendation is to stay there, but we do have a rollback rate of 8.609. But for the time being, rolling into the time we're gonna have our budget done, we need to keep it at 9.5, and then if we see where we can roll it back during budget workshops, then we should. And the difference between the taxable property values and the adjusted tax value basically is new construction improvements, which is about $2 million. But the difference of the increase of property values has gone up 12%. So that's basically, you know, the increase in value of the properties makes everybody's property worth more, which you get taxed for. But I want to try to keep us where we're at or go lower. But for the purpose of going into the hearing, we need to set a rate, and my recommendation is set at 9.5 that we can go down from when we get to the budget workshop.
Whatever rate you approve, you cannot exceed.
Right.
When you pass your budget, so.
I thought we already-
9.5 would be the
9.5
ceiling.
is it,
But,
yeah.
and I'm assuming from reading this last year, it was set at 9.5.
Right.
At the end of the conclusion of the budget meetings, it was decided that the city could operate on 8.7609, so we rolled it back.
Right.
But whatever you set tonight, you cannot exceed that rate when you get into your budget meetings.
That's why I'm recommending the 9.5 tonight. So that we
Oh, I thought we did this in
we
the
can
budget
always
time.
go, we can always go lower.
So we have to do it early enough so that it goes out on the trim notices. That's what's advertised as the maximum rate. And then at the conclusion of the budget workshop, you'll have your final rollback rate, or you leave it at 9.5. But you can't exceed it, and we have to have an amount set now so that it can go out on the trim notices within the time required by the Park and Rec.
We cannot exceed 9.5, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now we're looking for a motion, Mr. Session, for us, we keep it at 9.5?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We need to include the dates of the hearings.
Okay, sorry. The proposed tentative hearing will be on 9/12 at 5:30, and then the proposed final hearing will be at 9/26 on September 26th at 5:30.
So any motion would need to include the maximum millage rate and the two tentative hearing dates as part of that motion.
Okay, we've heard recommendations from staff. What's the wishes of the council?
Mr. President, I have a motion that we keep our millage rate at 9.5 with these dates in mind. Propose tentative hearing 9/12/23 and 9/6/23.
26.
9/26/23, all both at 5:30 p.m.
Okay, you've heard the motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask to be remove myself to leave tonight with permission from the council. I need to excuse myself. Now, and without like a public apology from Councilor Birch and from Councilor Campbell before I leave. I would like to have an apology from the two of you
For discussion.
for what you said. No, for what you said.
What did I say?
Okay, I'm going to ask to be excused if you
All
want.
right,
Thank
you're
you.
excused. Okay, this is a discussion of possible council action for an ordinance.
Mr. President, just as a reminder, these are quasi-judicial hearings on the
Yes.
final reading, so you'll need to ask
Public.
for any public participation as to each one.
Okay.
Mr. Attorney, question, Mr. Chairman, question. Now we're down to 4 board members. Is there such thing as 2-2 tie or anything, or
2-2 tie would result
if you
in
make some
a
votes? Say that again?
a tie vote would mean the motion fails.
Okay. So that needs to be voted on.
Next meeting.
Right. Since we're full council
Okay.
members.
These are Ordinances, Mr. George.
Thank you, George Curtis, Development Manager for the City of Live Oak, Mr. President and Council. These are second and final readings of land use and zoning matters. The full agenda packet was presented last month, at which time the ordinances were passed for the first reading. We've continued to advertise the properties with public hearing signage as well as newspaper ads so that the public is noticed. We have not received any positive or negative feedback from the public as a result of that advertising. However, the staff's recommendation remains the same for approval. So the first one is ordinance 1493, which is case CPA 23-02. This is a land use change on the properties that are across the street from the assisted living facility in Palms Medical on Ranchera Street Northwest, just a little bit north of Publix, from commercial land use to residential high density. So those lots could support residential development.
Mr. President, read those in by title only so we have them in the record. I'll be glad to do that.
Yes, sir.
Ordinance number 1493, an ordinance of the City of Live Oak, Florida, amending the future land use classification to 50 or fewer acres of land, small scale, on the future land use plan map of the City of Live Oak Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application CPA 23-02 by the property owners and/or their authorized designated representatives under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 Florida statutes as amended, and Article 3 of the Land Development Regulations providing for a change in the assigned future land use classification from commercial to residential high density on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing authority, and providing an effective date. And then you should request if there's any public comment at this time.
Hearing the ordinance, is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, what is the wishes of the council?
I'll offer motion to approve final reading.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And ordinance 1493 passes.
Thank you. The next one is ordinance 1494, which is part 2 of a two-part request for the same subject properties as was just voted on. And this is the zoning change to be consistent with the land use that was just approved to change 3.74 acres, more or less, of property comprised of the lots that are on the map and the ordinance from the current commercial intensive zoning to residential multiple family number 2, which is consistent with the land use of the high density land use that was just approved. And this ordinance ties to the other one in order to facilitate future development on the property, and staff's recommendation is approved.
Okay, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 1494, an ordinance of the City of Live Oak, Florida, amending the zoning district to 3.74 acres, more or less, of land in the official zoning atlas of the City of Live Oak Land Development Regulations pursuant to an application LDR 23-01 by the property owners and/or their authorized designated representatives under the amendment procedures established in Article 3 of the Land Development Regulation, providing for a change in the assigned zoning districts on commercial intensive C1 to residential multiple family 2, RMF 2, on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing authority, and providing an effective date.
Okay, hearing this ordinance, is there any input from the community? Hearing none. You've heard the wishes of council, or you've heard the wishes of the staff. What's the wishes of council?
I'll offer motion to approve the final reading of the ordinance 1494 LDR 2301, part 2 of 2.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you. The last ordinance to be voted on is ordinance 1495. This is second and final reading also for case number LDR 23-02. This is on a subject property at 405 Scriven Avenue Northwest, which is approximately a quarter of an acre. The land use is already in place for this zoning change, so the request to change from the single-family manufactured home category to the residential office would allow for the intent, which is to build a duplex on this property. It'd be a site-built duplex to provide for 2 housing units on it. This was advertised, and no positive or negative feedback has been received. Staff's recommendation is approval for this final reading.
Mr. Attorney, can you read the
Ordinance number 1495, an ordinance of the city of Live Oak, Florida, amending the zoning district to 0.257 acres more or less of land on the official zoning atlas of the city of Live Oak land development regulations pursuant to an application LDR 23-02 by the property owners and/or their authorized designated representatives under the amendment procedures established in Article 3 of the land development regulations, providing for a change in the assigned zoning district from residential single-family / manufactured home to RSF/MH-2 to residential office RO on certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Live Oak, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing authority, and providing an effective date.
Okay, is there anybody in the community that wants to comment on this ordinance? Hearing none, what is the wishes of council?
Let's get off a motion to approve the final reading of ordinance 1495 LDR 23-02.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
and we got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And ordinance number 1495 passes. Okay, item F.